I'd like to thank Dr. Batra for, he's a very dear friend, and he's always been very encouraging. And I get to learn a lot from him, so thank you so much for having me here. I loved the previous session a lot, a great deal, because it was a great learning experience. And Mr. Shiv Kumar, I must say, gave out really interesting insights. So thank you for that. My book is largely a political book. It discusses historical detail, which has an impact on contemporary politics. So in that sense, it's very different from majority of the books that are out here. But it is very relevant because much of what happens around us and what is happening politically or socially or economically is largely the result of what has happened in the last 75 odd years or probably earlier. So in that sense, also, this book has a relevance. It was a part of my PhD thesis. And I felt that this theme was something which was very, very interesting, and a story ought to be told in that sense, because a lot has been written on independence, partition, Muslim politics. We hear newspapers dotted with it almost every other day. About the political makeup or minority politics or state elections. Whenever there's an election, there is always, especially in areas where Muslims form a significant section of the population, there's always a discussion about identity politics and where it's going, who's going to vote in that sense. So in that sense, it's very, very important and relevant as a contemporary topic. Now, what inspired me to write the book? Obviously, it was a culmination of my work, which I did extensively in parts of Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, and I interviewed a good number of people. And because there's so much you can get from a government file, there's very limited you can get from a private paper, because it's essentially being written by an individual keeping a historical perspective in mind, especially people. I understood that people who left their private papers were very meticulous, and they were conscious of the fact that they were leaving a sense of historical detail which is going to be read by future generations. So they were very conscious about what they were leaving behind. So that is there. But you get to know a lot from talking to people and getting their perspective on different things. So this book is a culmination of a couple of themes that we have looked at, and a couple of themes that are relevant. We are staring at 5 state elections this year and a general election early next year. So this book talks extensively about electoral politics and identity politics and mobilization of votes. So in that sense, this book is relevant to a large cross-section of audience. It's just not for academics. It is also for students of history, people who want to understand what is happening in the current scenario, and also people who want to make sense of what is the historical past, because it depends. It's really relative. It depends who you speak to, and depending entirely on who you speak to, you come to form a perspective, or on the basis of what you've read. This book is also driven by a desire to write things which are very intensely researched. Every claim in the book is backed by 3 or 4 different sorts of sources that I've dealt with to not only strengthen the claim, but also to kind of corroborate it and make it much more effective. I would also say that books give you an opportunity to understand and kind of tell a story which you could tell in a way the which the author wants to say, but also have historical characters speak to a wider audience, which otherwise is not possible because they're long gone. So in that sense also, this book is through its characters trying to speak to a large cross-section of audience, whether it's students, it's young people, or it's older people, people who have lived through these years, would also be a ready audience of this book, because they would probably be able to relate to some of the historical developments that I mentioned in this book. A lot of this book is highly contentious because it revises, for a lack of a better word, some of the claims that have been made by really important people in the field. So it's trying to revise that, and revision, correction never really sits well. So that's a problem. But nonetheless, I've tried to kind of make the book as readable and as broad as possible, because I understand that there is a wide cross section of people who would like to read and know about it. Muslim politics, elections is something, even if you are not in any way connected to the political community, you're not actively political, you don't share political views on social media, but you still, politics, elections, identity politics, everyone has an opinion. And I think that opinion is very, very important. Especially in today's time and age, people are expressing using social media to express their opinions. So in that sense, this book is relevant because it deals with a topic which is focus of a discussion probably in a lit fest like this, or in a conversation over dinner or drinks, or in a conversation probably happening in and around an election, or a conversation which is happening on news channels. So it is relevant and speaks for a very large section of audience. So that's all I like to say about the book.